Hello students, teachers, administrators, the entire community of Porterleith School. My name is Velma Cato, and I'm really honored that you chose my book for Read Across America Day. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so I'm a native Memphian. I'm from Orange Mound, which is the largest black community where blacks own their homes. It's the first community established by black people in America. So I'm very proud to be from Memphis, Tennessee, and Orange Mound. I went to Hanley Elementary School, and when I went to the 7th grade, I had hoped that I would go to Melrose, which is a premier high school in Memphis. But at the time I was moving on to the 7th grade, and they handpicked a few black kids to integrate the white schools. So now they didn't send white kids to black schools. They sent just a few of us to white schools. So I went to Fairview Junior High, and for 3 years there were only 2 blacks in my class. It was really rough. The kids called me names. They called me Clorox baby. They asked me if I had a tail that came out at night. The Pink Palace, which is the Memphis Museum, the class was to go to the museum, but the museum was still segregated. They had only 1 day a week that they would allow black kids to come. So the teacher had the class vote on whether or not they would go to the museum without me, or if no one would go to the museum. And believe it or not, the entire class voted not to go to the museum because they didn't think it was fair that I couldn't go with them. I was accused of, for example, cheating on a test because we had vocabulary words, and now, I was supposed to have cheated from the person who sat behind me. They couldn't believe that I made 100 on this vocabulary test. And it turned out that there was one word that I had spelled wrong. Well, when she passed out the study sheet, the word was spelled wrong on the study sheet. And every student in the class had spelled the word the same way, wrong. So she thought because the person behind me also made 100, and I was the only other person in the room had made 100, that I must have cheated off of that person. So I learned a lot of lessons growing up in Memphis. But at any rate, you get past it, and I was just determined to do my best. I was a really good student. And one thing that helped me get past it is that I really loved reading. So whenever I read, I could go to different places. Books would transport me to places like Paris or New York or Venice or Milan and Rome. So I would travel in the books so I could get away from all the turmoil of the day. So books were always my friend, and I always wanted to write a book. I have to back up a bit because I have to tell you the story about when I was in 8th grade. Dr. Martin Luther King came to Memphis. And at the time, all the students in my class and many of my teachers were very upset that he was in Memphis, meddling in Memphis's business. And so they were not very kind to me either, because of course I was a fan of Dr. Martin Luther King. After seeing the journalists who came to Memphis to report on these stories, and they were very courageous because many citizens in Memphis didn't want them there either to tell that story. It was something that it encouraged me. I wanted to be a journalist, and I knew to be a journalist, once again, you had to read and be interested in the world, and that if you were a journalist, quite possibly, you could travel the world and report on stories. So I majored in broadcast journalism. When I was 27 years old, I became the bureau chief for NBC Network News. So that was 21 crews, and all the anchors and reporters, and I had a $400 million operating budget that I had to manage at 27 years old. I'm from Boston Street, Memphis, Tennessee, a little black girl who had dreams of seeing the world traveling as a journalist. And I did it not because I had a dream of doing it, because I really worked hard at my craft. I ended up telling stories with film and through documentaries and news stories, but I always wanted to write a book. My book, The Talented Toad, parallels my life in a lot of ways. Froggy, who's the main character in the book, he wanted to sing. And no one, and his parents didn't think he could sing, because frogs don't really sing. Frogs can jump. Frogs are good at catching flies, but frogs are not known to be singers. So you'll have to read the book to find out what happened. Students at Port-a-Leith, I think the thing I'd like you to know and remember is that it's okay to dream and have dreams. But once you have that dream, you have to do the work to make it happen. Because dreams without work is absolutely nothing. And also, to persevere, to just keep at it. You may not be good at it at first, but if you keep at it, you'll become great at it. To teachers and to parents, the hardest job there is, but one of the most fulfilling jobs, I'm sure you'll say. And sometimes I know it's discouraging because you're not always treated as such valuable people, but you are valuable. Just living your life, letting them see how you conduct yourself. You're teaching then, and that's super important. But you have the most important job there is. It's more important than being President of the United States, to be quite honest, because you're there, you're on the front line. You're the one they see day in and day out. And so just be encouraged that you're doing good things. You're making great citizens, and you're imparting all this knowledge. Thank you so much for what you're doing.